Kaiju fans, welcome back to the Kaiju World Order. My name is MM, and this is a video I'm actually making to defend one of the most hated entries in the entire fandom of Godzilla and Kaiju in general, and that is Godzilla 98. And why am I doing this is really because I'm just bored, but also because there was a tweet that was put out by, I believe it was IGN. No, it was Synthetic. I don't know. It's some Twitter thing. But anyway, they just say about Godzilla 98 being a strange outlier because of the various reasons, like Roland Emmerich treating it as a disaster movie instead of a kaiju movie, which is true, and why it has a cult following. And it does have a cult following for a variety of reasons that I'm going to get into here. But Godzilla 98 is often treated as something that nearly ruined the franchise, that the design itself ruined Godzilla. I remember a time when this specific Godzilla incarnation was called Gino or Gino, depending on who you ask, which stood for Godzilla in name only. But now, nearly 30 years later, I think it's time to let go of the absolute hatred of this movie, because it does have some good stuff to go with it. Yeah, it's not a good movie, right? It is pretty blah. It's generic 1990s slop. But for somebody that was like 10 years old at the time, such as myself, Godzilla 98 still holds a very special place. It is the first Godzilla movie that I got to see in theaters for the first time, and really was the only one up until Godzilla 2000. The build-up for the movie was insane, with stores like Toys R Us having entire displays for it. You had with logos on it and statements like Godzilla's foot is the size of this whole bus. And it was just a very crazy time to be a Godzilla fan. Yes, even as a 10-year-old Godzilla fan walking out of the theater, I was a bit disappointed in the movie. But even then, I knew I still had all the classic movies that I loved and was able to see before this movie came out, which was pretty much everything except for like Godzilla Raids Again and a handful of the Heisei movies, I believe. But it was my first Godzilla movie in theaters, and that's one of the reasons why some Godzilla fans like myself, despite all the flaws this movie has, and it does have a lot, is one of the reasons why we like it, or we tolerate it even. I do consider it a Godzilla movie. When I do my yearly Godzilla-thon, Godzilla 98 is in it. And then there's also the handful of people that just happen to like bad movies. And again, I'm one of those type of guys too. I do enjoy old, crappy 1950s movies. I like Sci-Fi Channel originals from the 2000s. I regularly go to Walmart, and if I see a new release that's cheap and the cover looks cool, and then if I see the trailer for it, there's a good chance I'll pick it up. I might only watch it once or twice, but I kind of have a weakness for bad movies, and Godzilla 98, if you like Godzilla 98, there's a chance that you like other bad movies, and that's perfectly fine. The movie isn't that bad. Really, I would argue all the way up until Godzilla's initial reveal and them trying to get him out into the city with the fish is where the movie just goes off the rails and just kind of burns. Everything leading up to that, it doesn't lead up to anything good. The whole thing with Godzilla in Jamaica, attacking that ship, bringing the boats down, and even his basic arrival where he comes up out of the sea and he's dropping boats and everything, you don't get to see his face. It's all very well done. If the rest of the movie would have followed like that, I have no doubt that the movie would be way more beloved than it is now. Even taking out of context Godzilla's design and the fact that he doesn't really destroy much, the atmosphere, the tension that is in the movie up until his reveal is just top. Really, I don't think there's any Godzilla movie that really tops it in that type of tension. Yeah, you can argue like maybe 2014 in some scenes, but for the actual confusion of what the hell is going on here, Godzilla 98 really does it well. And I'm actually going to say that's really in part of some of the cast. Yeah, Audrey Timmons is just worthless. She's one of the worst characters in the entire Godzilla franchise. But the rest of the characters are okay. You have Kevin Dunn as Hicks, and he is your main military dude and comes back for the animated series and everything, and he carries most of his scenes fine. Gene Reno is Gene Reno. They could have made him the whole main character and it would have been perfect. Animal, you either love him or hate him. And then of course you got Ferris Bueller himself, Matthew Broderick, and he works as like the main character all the way up until Godzilla's actual arrival. When we start seeing him running around with soldiers and everything and having to engage baby Godzillas, no, Matthew Broderick is not an action movie star. He should have never been put into the main character role for this. It should have been someone like Gene Reno or the one soldier, O'Neill. But instead, Matthew Broderick. And him being in an action movie role just does not work. Alright? He looks like a nerd. He's nerdy, right? No. So, yeah, the characters are okay. The big flaw with the movie, as far as I'm concerned, is the whole last act with the baby Godzillas, where the CGI really looks dated. The whole thing just plays out like an Asylum ripoff of Jurassic Park's Velociraptor scenes, and it's pretty blah. It drags the whole movie down to a stop. But by the time the movie ends, I still don't think the movie is as bad as what some people, like the person that was responding to that tweet, was saying. Yes, the history of the production is very well documented with Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin just not caring whatsoever for Godzilla and forcing Toho into a corner to allow them to do their vision, which is why we got the Godzilla that we got, and why, for the most part, he didn't act like Godzilla whatsoever. But if we would take Godzilla 1998 out of the picture completely, the whole franchise would be a lot different. At least I think so. Remember, the Heisei era ended specifically because TriStar was gearing up this movie back in 1996, and it didn't come out till 98. That is why Destroya happened. We probably wouldn't have gotten Godzilla 2000 if it wasn't for this, because the fan backlash and the general audience backlash showed that there was still enough support for Godzilla in the classic style to be made. So then we got the Millennium Era, possibly all due and thanks to Godzilla 98 just shitting on the character. The main thing that really kind of annoys me with the hatred for Godzilla 98 is when somebody says Godzilla 98's design ruined the character. And I just do not agree with that whatsoever. Is it a design I like? No. It's not one of my top favorite designs. I have seen some very bad redesigns in my years. Some from fans, some from professionals, and I would mark some of them as far worse in taste and respect to the character of Patrick Tatopoulos' design. And why I feel this design actually does work for a Godzilla is Godzilla's series. Same exact design. Yeah, some little tweaks here because it is a cartoon, but he acts like Godzilla but with the TriStar design, and it still works. He has his atomic breath, he fights other monsters, hell, he even faces aliens that use a cybernetic version of the dead body of the original Godzilla 98. And it has a blue atomic fire just like the classic Godzilla. So the cartoon made the design work while still treating the source material with respect. That's the difference. The only reason Godzilla 98 is viewed as such a bad movie is because of the disrespect that the creators had for the actual character. The other aspects of the movie are okay. As I said, the build-up, the tension from the very opening credits to Godzilla's reveal on what his design looks like as he comes out of the sewer, but the design itself is not what ruined Godzilla, not in a long shot. And just one final part for the music of the movie. The opening theme I actually really like. I tend to get it stuck in my head, or I'll be whistling it at times at work. And then, of course, Puff Daddy's... Yeah, Puff Daddy. So, anyway, Kaiju fans, that's all I really wanted to say about it here. Till next time, peace out, and Minya, take it away.
Says you should like and subscribe.